Mr. Scary Studios. Number 1.
This happened a few years ago. I was 14 and was taking the bus to the mall with my friend. The mall is about a 45-minute, 1 hour bus ride depending on the traffic. We had gotten on the bus at the transit exchanging in my town. About 30 minutes into the bus ride, a man who looked to be in his late 30s to mid 40s got on the bus. He was almost entirely bald, was wearing purple round sunglasses, and had a plaid backpack and a denim jacket. Me and my friend were at the very at the seats that face in front of the bus. The man sat in the seats perpendicular to us. I noticed that he was staring at us the whole time since he had got on the bus and began to feel very uncomfortable. He'd also kept reaching to his pant pocket, waistband area, as though he were reaching for a knife or a gun. I whispered to my friend to get off before our stop, so that he wouldn't know that we were in the mall. We pulled the cable for the next stop, and as soon as I started to stand up, he started to stand up while staring at me. We made our way to the door on the bus, waiting to hop off, and he was wedging himself as close as possible to me. When the door opened, I briefly stepped off the bus and jumped back on as soon as he got off. I was getting more and more uncomfortable by the minute. Soon we were at the mall and spent a couple of hours there shopping. I kept checking around, but didn't see the man anywhere and felt relieved. Once we left, we walked to an art store a couple blocks down where I bought a couple of things. We walked to the closest bus stop and waited for the bus. The bus never came for 3 whole stops. It should have been there. It was about 31 degrees Celsius, so we really didn't feel like walking up the block and cross the street to the next stop. After waiting so long, we did, and as soon as we arrived at the stop, the man walked up at the same time. At this point, I'm starting to think, what the fuck? So the bus shows up, and in the group of people pushing to get on the bus, we move ourselves to the back of the line. The man gets on the bus and we stay behind to catch the next bus. We got on the second bus and I joked to my friend, imagine if he gets on the same bus at another stop. I guess I jinxed it because back in our town he gets on our bus. He no longer had his backpack. My friend and I were freaking out at this point. There's conveniently a bus stop right in front of her house, but we got off the bus a couple of blocks ahead and walked in the sweltering heat so that he wouldn't have a chance to see which house we walked into. I'm not sure if he was a series of odd coincidences, but it still makes me incredibly uncomfortable. And to this day I check every single passenger when I take the bus to make sure he's not there. I looked through the wanted list in my area that day and found a man similar looking to him, but I wasn't entirely sure since the man I saw was wearing glasses. Something I regret not reporting him to the police.
Number 2.
I used to live in a really nice, safe neighborhood up until I was about 12. It was one of those really friendly small areas where everyone knows everyone. So naturally, everyone kind of knew about the creepy family that lived on the corner in a rundown house. It was an elderly lady and her daughter. Now, my friends and I have met them before. We sang Christmas carols around the neighborhood at around 8 years old, and we also went up to this one house. The older lady was sweet and really welcoming of us, while the middle-aged daughter scowled at us from behind. It was pretty much known that the daughter had some very deep psychological issues. These only got worse when the elderly lady died, as the daughter pretty much deteriorated completely as a human. We would hear screaming throughout the night coming from her house, and there would be times that she would sit on her porch without a shirt on, talking to herself. So one day, my friends and I are walking back from a local liquor store with bags full of junk food, thinking nothing about it. We decide to walk down the street that her house is located on. We were walking on the opposite side of the street in relation to her house. All of a sudden, she jumps from her porch, shrieking at the top of her lungs. In her hand is a massive kitchen knife, and she starts running after us, screaming, "Get away from my house! I'll kill all of you! You better run! Fuck off! Satan is coming for you!" Followed by more insistent shrieking. Adrenaline kicked in, and my friends and I ran like fuck. She dropped when I got to the next block. She stopped when I got to the next block. Many tears were shed, and we were very much shaken. My friend dropped her corn nuts and went back for them. Needless to say, creepy kitchen knife lady, let's not meet again.
Number 3.
This is my father's story. As a child, my father was a paper boy, and he would get up very early in the morning to deliver them. My father would always end up with a few extra papers, so at the end of his route, he would offer papers to other early birds leaving for work and whatnot. On this day, my father offered a man who was sitting in a parked van a newspaper. The man just stared at my dad and didn't respond. So my dad just went on his way. As my dad was walking away, he heard a car door open and the sound of feet hitting the pavement. He turned around and saw the man running after him. My dad was a very big athletic in his day. He played basketball and baseball, so he took off running. The man chased him for a bit, but my dad knew the neighborhood like the back of his hand and cut through the backyards and hopped fences. He eventually lost the man and got home safely. He didn't tell his parents because he figured they would make him quit. A few weeks passed by and two local boys went missing and their bodies were found at a campground. They were raped and then shot in the head. The man who committed the awful crime was William J. Wright. When my father saw him in the newspapers, he recognized him as the man who chased him. Here is an article about the murders. I'll leave it in the description below.